Giving my best. I wonder if I'm good enough.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Garden of Epiphany, a women's health and wellness oasis. I'm your host, Raven Epiphany, and I'm so glad you decided to join us for another video. It has been a while since we chatted, y'all. I took a break for the month of May. May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month, and so I did a little bit something different. I decided to take that month off to focus on my own mental health. Now, first, let me say that mental health is something that we shouldn't just focus on during the month of May. It is something that should be a part of our regular routine, something that we're always being mindful of, something that is a part of our regular practices, etc. And then, there are times when we may need to give some extra self-care, some extra, good love to our mental health and wellness. And so that's what I chose to do last month. And let me tell y'all, whenever you decide that you want to focus on something, that is when all the challenges in the world want to pop up. That is when, you got to really gear up your resilience in that thing, because as soon as you say, this is the thing I'm focusing on, this is the thing that I want to pour a little bit extra into, it seems as though, the world is like, okay, cool beans, let's test that and let's see. But either way, I spent the month, returning to some routines that I had let go of, improving some things that I had, let fall by the wayside. And so I definitely want to kind of share two things with you guys that may be able to help you along your mental health journey. And I just want to remind you guys that mental health is, again, not something that we should just focus on during the month of May. It is definitely something that should be, a part of our everyday lives throughout the year, 12 months of the year. And so I will be talking about today in this video 5 things that I did not expect to experience during my mental health and healing journey. And then I will also be releasing a written blog tomorrow as well, talking about 5 things that you can start doing now to improve your mental health. And they'll just be 5 tips of things that are very small that we sometimes don't even realize affect our mental space, that we can incorporate into our lives to just improve and maintain that so much better. And so let's hop into today's topic. So many of us are on a healing and wholeness journey, as people, especially, post-pandemic. I don't even know if you can say per se that we are post-pandemic yet, but after being in a pandemic for 2+ years, and then amongst other things, history, etc., family, whatever, relationships, a lot of us have, experiences and traumas and things like that we are working to heal from. We are working to become our better or best selves. We are working to, overcome challenges and obstacles in our lives. Or sometimes, maybe even if you do not have trauma, you just want to make sure that you are able to show up in a way that, you have clear lenses about things. You are, again, able to show up as your best and most whole self. And so along that journey, we talk about therapy, we talk about implementing different practices and routines in order to do that. But there are some things that you don't realize are going to be a part of your journey until you are along that journey. You're like, whoa, I was not ready for that. I was expecting to have to do some work. I was expecting, for it to be somewhat of a challenge. But there are some nuanced things that come up along the way, or at least that came up along the way for me and some other people that I know that, I just really wasn't expecting. I was like, I see this one thing that I want to fix, and so I'm going to work on it. And then, that led to another thing and another thing. And so let's jump right into it. Here are 5 things that I did not expect to experience along my health and wellness, specifically my mental and emotional healing journey. So the first one is, I did not expect to grieve the former me or grieve things that I let go of, even though, those forms of myself and some of those things were not good for me. And so, whenever we step into something new, even if the old thing is something that we know within our mind, know within our heart is something that, it's about time to let go of, whether it be a job, whether it be, again, your parts of yourself, or, ways of being, whether it be habits, whether it be friendships or relationships, whatever it may be, you may purposefully and mindfully be leaving those things behind, but no one tells you that you may still go through a grief process, because that is something that you're literally letting go. It's something that's being, stripped away from you that you were used to having. And so it doesn't mean that you should retreat back to that thing. It doesn't mean that, you're along the wrong path. It doesn't mean that, the journey that you're on is not actually beneficial. But it is a normal thing to grieve old things. If you leave a job and you're excited about your next job, your next opportunity, it is still perfectly okay and perfectly normal to grieve the old opportunity that you had. That is something that was a part of you for however long that it was a part of. And so to move on to something new, there still may be an actual grieving process. And it may look like, the normal 5 steps of grief, or it may look like something different, something even, shorter for you. But either way, grieving some of those things, grieving the old me, grieving some old things that I had to let go of, is not something that I expected to have to do. Like, I was ready to strip some things away, so I just thought, once I did that, it was gonna be all peachy keen and it was gonna be great. And in many ways it has been great. It's definitely been, beneficial. But again, I did, spend some time, realizing like, wow, I was this person for so long, or wow, I had this specific thing in my life for so long, and I had to sit with that for a second. Sometimes it looks like tears, sometimes it just looks like reminiscing on the good, the bad, whatever of the thing. But expect a little bit of grief when you are moving on to new things, even if the new thing is good for you, great for you, and something that you want to bring into your life. Allow the moment, allow yourself to sit into the moment, and then allow the moment to pass. Don't try to pretend like it's not happening. Don't try to push it away. Allow yourself to sit in that space for a little bit of time, and then, deal with the emotions that arise. And, eventually you will move forward and be able to completely embrace the new thing and let go of the grief of the old thing. The second thing I didn't expect to experience along my healing journey, and by the way, there is no like hierarchical, there's no way that I'm actually numbering these are just the way that I had them written out on the paper, so nothing's necessarily more important or more intense than the other. But the second thing is the exhaustion. And so like when you make a decision to go on a path or a journey of healing, it may be one thing that sparks it, and so maybe you just want to attack that one thing and fix it, or it may be one experience that you want to heal from and move forward from. And so you think that this will be quick and dirty. I go through the process, maybe go to therapy, maybe journal a little bit, and then we'll be all good, shake it off and keep it moving. But what I realized during my healing journey is that, first of all, when you decide to go on a healing journey for the first time, there are going to be things that come up that you never expected to come up. Like, there are things that you didn't even know were a thing. And so sometimes that journey that you thought was going to be super quick and super short ends up being a bit longer. And with that, sometimes will come a bit of fatigue, a bit of exhaustion, when you are continuously being intentional about your healing and about being your best self, and about letting go of things that no longer serve you and bringing things into your life that, serve you well and allow you to be your best self, allow you to interact well with others and interact well with yourself. You can get a little bit tired. Like, it gets a bit tiresome to always be introspective and reflective and things like that, especially again when you're going on this journey for the very first time and you are diving into things that you have never even realized were a thing. And so during that time, I suggest that, sometimes you take breaks during that healing journey. We always are talking about ways to be better, get better, etc. And I love that. Like, I'm definitely a person who's all for self-improvement, self-reflection, and moving forward. But also, you have to leave room to love yourself exactly where you are. And sometimes that means taking a break from the healing journey to just say, wow, I've come so far. Let me sit in this version of me and enjoy it, because not only am I tired, but also I've worked hard to get to where I am, and I don't want to overlook what I've accomplished to get here so far. I don't want to overlook the things that I've overcome to get to this part here. And also, I just want to take a rest from consistently telling myself that I need to be better. Granted, again, self-improvement is a wonderful thing, but there should also be a balance between self-improvement and self-love in whatever stage that you are in. And so definitely during that time, if you're feeling exhausted by the healing journey, you can take a break and decide, for maybe a month or two or however long, maybe a year, because again, healing's gonna be a lifelong journey. So it's okay to take breaks and say, you know what, this is a good place to sit. I've made so many strides and I really appreciate where I am. So I'm gonna take a break. And then also you can practice some extra self-care during those times when it gets a lot heavier and harder and you are, fatigued in doing the work, as people say. It's okay to take breaks and it's okay to give yourself a bit more self-care. It's okay to do, some of those lighter things like taking more baths. It's okay to do some of the heavier things like, journaling about your exhaustion. Or sometimes it may look like, I don't want to do any more heavy stuff at this moment. I just want to have some fun. I just want to connect with my girls. I just want to do some things that make me feel great. I like to dance. So, for me, that may look like, I just want to go out and dance, or I want to go do things that, bring me joy. And again, you should be doing this throughout the healing journey. Don't get me wrong. But when you are feeling exhausted by the journey, you may want to do a little bit more of these things than you normally would. So anyway, the third thing that I did not expect to experience during my healing journey was to feel guilt over some of the previous decisions or choices that I made in the past, or things that I accepted in the past that I shouldn't have, that, maybe I didn't even realize until I started this healing journey that were a problem. And so, we all know about those moments when we cringe about things that we said in the past, or where we cringe about things that we remember that we did. But, as you are examining yourself and working through things, there may be some heavier things that come up that, you may be tempted to feel guilty about, or, you may feel bad about. You can't go back and fix them. So, it just may leave you in a weird and not so great space. And so I would encourage you to shift your mindset about those things. One, remember that you didn't know then what you know now. And so instead of feeling guilty, just, reflect on that old self and say, you know what, I'm going to give you grace because I've learned so much up until this point, which has gotten me to the place to realize that whatever I did or whatever I was accepting was not the best thing. And so, that previous version of myself just didn't know. And, you can't help what you don't know, And then also one thing that I heard on a podcast that was so revolutionary to me, it just was such a light, that went off for me, is just don't punish your old self for not knowing what you know now. Instead, thank her for embarking on this journey that, allowed you to gain the knowledge that you have now so that you can do better. Because at some point, whatever version of yourself back then that did whatever that you're feeling guilty for decided, I want better, or I want to do better, and, decided to embark on this journey that has gotten you to this point. And so instead of, punishing that old person, or feeling guilty about that old person, again, give grace to that person because they didn't know, but also thank your former self for deciding, you know what, we're going to do better, we're going to strive for better, we are going to accept better in the future. And yeah, remember that that's how you ended up getting to where you are now, which is in a new place where you can do better. You know better now, you can do better now. And you only know that because that previous person decided to start the work, to start the journey. Fourth thing that I did not expect to, experience during this journey is having sometimes random flashbacks or things come up from things that you had previously buried. There are certain things that, maybe when you experience them, you subconsciously put them away, and, thought that they were buried forever, or, maybe you didn't even think about them that deeply at the time. And now that you're on this healing journey, you're like, oh, I realize I'm this way because of this one thing that happened, or I realized that, looking back, that this one thing actually affected me in a way that I never even recognized until now. And so you may find yourself, I don't want to use such a cliche word, but being triggered by, certain things that may come up you know, that you never expected to be triggered by, because again, you never even knew that these things were buried so far, you know, down. So like having those random like, oh snap, I remember in my childhood when this one thing happened that you totally forgot about until you started actually thinking about things in this certain way. That is perfectly normal, because again, you are tapping into a part of your mind and your memory and, you know, your emotional space that maybe you haven't before. And so, you know, I definitely didn't expect it, but I definitely understand why it should be just, you know, it should be expected to be a part of the journey, because again, you are excavating certain parts of yourself that, you know, you buried before, purposely or unpurposely, knowingly or unknowingly. And so now that you are peeling back layers, these things may come up. Sometimes, you know, provoked when you're purposely trying to think about things, and sometimes completely unprovoked, where you're just going about your life and you see this one thing that reminds you of your grandma, or, you know, you see this one thing that reminds you of elementary school. And these can be good things or bad things, but, you know, you can expect that things may come up for you from the past that you just didn't know were there, or that you may have known were there, but you thought you were over them, or you thought you had dealt with them, or whatever. Last thing is the desire to be normal, and or wishing that you had just never embarked on this journey to begin with, aka wishing that ignorance could go back to being bliss. Now this kind of connects back to the exhaustion piece, because this, for me anyway, tends to come up in those times when I'm like, sheesh, this is tough, sheesh, this is getting heavy. I'm like, man, should I just have stayed the same at this point? Should I just not have even, you know, tried to do better, tried to heal from things, tried to address things? Because my goodness, like, I'm tired, and I feel like, you know, other people just be out here living, doing they dirt and not caring. Why can't I just be out here living, doing dirt and not caring? But if you are, again, remembering that you purposely went on this journey, there's a reason that you originally did it. And so, you know, even though sometimes it may be tempting to feel like, my goodness, there's just so many things, I wish I could just go back to not even knowing about these things. Again, it's a journey. And so at some point, these things won't even be as big to you. But also, you know that you are in a better place now than you were then, because there was a reason that you started the journey, right? And then that whole, you know, desire to be normal. One thing I'm realizing is nobody's truly normal. Like, there's really no such thing as normal. Everybody has their things, whether they choose to address them or not, you know, whether they choose to think about them reflectively or not. And so there's no such thing as normal. You know, some people have been through more things than others. Some people, you know, have more struggles in one given moment of life than others. But essentially, everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own things that they are working through, working on, or struggle with. And so there's no such thing as being normal. But sometimes when you're getting in the thick of the work, it can feel like, yeah, I just want to run back to the safety net of not having to worry about any of this. And, you know, I can tell you from experience that I think that's perfectly normal. But I will also tell you, don't give up, sis. There's a reason you started this journey. The journey, I'm sure, has brought you many benefits, you know, even if it has brought you many challenges as well. And though, you know, mental health and wellness and even healing is a lifelong journey, there are aspects of your healing that you will be able to check off, and you will be able to see, yeah, I overcame that, you know, and now I'm in a new space and I don't have to worry about that one thing anymore. Life is a, you know, journey continuously, and so you may have to go back and reuse some of your processes for new things that may come up. But I can assure you that it definitely gets better. I can assure you that it definitely gets easier. It definitely comes more naturally to you, and sometimes it even gets a little bit quicker. Like, the more you're in the practice of being reflective and actually attacking a thing, or not attacking, but actually facing a thing, and, you know, deciding to push through it instead of avoiding it or, you know, burying it, it gets easier. It becomes like a regular routine. It becomes a regular part of your flow. It becomes, you know, sometimes it becomes even more light, depending on what you're dealing with. And so those are just 5 things that for me personally came up in my healing journey that I was not expecting, but hopefully they helped some of you guys out there who are on a healing journey as well, to just know that you're not alone if you're experiencing what feels like adverse effects of the healing journey. Like, you're not alone. It's perfectly normal. And even if these 5 don't resonate with you, you can take time to think about what things in your life and along your journey that may have come up for you that you just weren't expecting, that almost made you want to turn back and decide not to do it at all, right? So let me know in the comments, like, did any of these resonate with you? And if not, what are your things? What are things that for you, came up during your healing journey that, you just weren't prepared for? And how did you address those things? So that's the conclusion of today's video. I hope that, you were able to get something from it, if for nothing else than feeling like you are not alone. For those who have not started your healing journey, I hope you're not feeling intimidated by any of the things that I said. These do not all, happen at once, or at least they didn't happen for me. And again, the healing journey has been so very, very worth it for me. It's brought me so much joy. It's brought me back, the ability to advocate for myself. It's brought back, the ability to dream again, amongst so many other things. It just depends on what it is that you're trying to do as to what it will bring for you. So, it's definitely worth it to push through each of these obstacles. And there are resources and tools that you can tap into that will definitely help you to push through these things. So, with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, please make sure you do so. I'm not sure what you are waiting for. And make sure you check out our blog to see what are some small things that you can implement into your life to just improve your everyday mental health experience. Until next time, have a healthy and wholesome week. Bye.